I'm out here with Eric G. from Around the House. Eric, it is finally springtime. We can finally move outside. And some of us may have the point that our decks maybe need a little help. And I think you have some tips for that.
Absolutely. You know, decks traditionally last about 15 years in our area, even with good maintenance. With less than good maintenance, of course, it doesn't last that long.
Right.
So really coming up with some good products out there now that you can put down on the deck that'll last 3, 4, 5 times as long as that if you do it correctly.
Right, because here in the Northwest, we have a lot of weather. We got the sun, we got the rain, moisture, I mean, a little of everything. And it's, it needs some maintenance.
Oh yeah, and we beat it up here, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, because it gets everything, plus there's tree sap, everything else, pets, all the normal stuff that you do on that deck.
Right, and so you just, we're standing on a new deck that you just put in. So what is the material that we're standing on?
So this is actually a composite deck, and this is what I really like with composites these days. This is actually made by Moisture Shield. What I like about this product that's different than any of the other composite decks is this actually reflects heat. So if you walk out on the bare feet, even on a hot summer day, it's a cooler surface. It's actually cooler than a wood deck.
Really?
I don't like some of the darker decks out there that are composites because you walk out on them, you could hurt your, the paws of your pets.
Right.
You could hurt yourself. And so this really makes it enjoyable.
It does, because some of those are so hot that you don't realize that when you're putting them in, that it's, in the summertime when you want to be out there,
absolutely,
there's some downside. But this sounds like a great.
This is cool. What I like about these newer style decks is that are composites, they've actually capped this, so it's sealed off. The old versions of like some of the Treks that you saw 10, 15, 20 years ago, kind of in the first version of the composites, you drip some grease from the barbecue or anything that would come down, tree sap, dirt, it would soak in because it was fairly porous, and then that stain was there forever, so it would look not so great, and it's not like you could refinish it.
Right. And there's, for maintenance-wise, is there, things we have to work, the wood decks, you're staining, you're sanding, you're sealing, but with this, you don't need to do that, right?
No, I mean, you're usually sealing a deck every couple of years in our area if it's open out to the sun and the weather. So with this can be a 40 or 50 year material that you put down.
Wow.
So it's a huge difference. Now, of course, you need to do some work down below, because if you don't maintain it and you don't put the right stuff down below as far as treated woods and do some of those tricks, then you've got a deck that's going to last, but maybe the framing won't. So you have to be careful with that.
Right. And then I was just noticing on here, you have this kind of interesting little rubber piece on there. What is that?
This is new technology out called Dexer Dry, and I love this. If you need to create a waterproof surface like I did on my upstairs deck here, I wanted a place where I could barbecue in, those 4 or 5 months of the year where there's no way I'm sitting outside in a barbecue. This actually compresses in between both pieces of wood or, composite, goes in that groove, and when it compresses together, you have a watertight seal. So instead of having to have all those, you just get all the junk in there. It could be the dirt, pine needles, leaves. Instead of that getting plugged up and being a drippy mess, this actually makes it easier to clean. I wish I would have done it on this deck.
Right, because it makes sense for up above, and you wouldn't think about it for below, but...
That was my mistake that I made here. I should have put it down here because it makes it so much easier to clean. I don't get into that junk in between the boards. It just cleans off a lot easier.
Right.
That would have saved me a lot of time just in regular cleaning maintenance to keep this looking good.
Now, you have a lot of tips and tricks on, a lot of, projects around the house. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your podcast.
So my podcast Around the House, we're actually a nationally syndicated radio show, but we have this podcast that is kind of the expanded version of that. So we have to cut it down to fit the radio, but really for the podcast, we talk about everything from healthy homes to decks to painting, anything within the house, even some musical guests sometimes. We just want to have a good time, and then we can just teach people the right way to do things and kind of do some deep dives. We're not your usual call-in home improvement show. We like to take a subject and really dive into it and get you the answers so you can actually do the project.
If people are interested in listening to your podcast, where can they go to listen to it?
Roundthehouseonline.com.
And then you're on, how often do you do a new topic?
So we have actually about 3 podcasts a week.
Oh, wow.
And we're also on about 52 different podcast players across the world out there. So if it's a place you listen to podcasts, you'll probably find Around the House.
Gotcha. Well, Eric, it's been a pleasure to be out here on your deck and your patio and to learn all about the new decking that you've put in. So if you're looking to get out in your yard this spring and you're ready to make a change, make sure you check out gardentime.tv, or we'll get you over to Eric's podcast to learn all how to do it. So it's been great to be out here, and I see you might have a little glass of wine when we tap to next.
I think we need to dive into that.
So thanks for having us, Eric.
Thanks for having me.